Are you a new Dungeon Master or a seasoned veteran? Regardless, you're still trying to answer that one question. How do I make the perfect session? How do I balance combat and mechanics with story? Well, if you stick to the end of this video, I'll show you the 3 steps in order to make your first perfect session. Let's get into it. Alright, so the first step I'm going to teach you guys is what exactly are the components of a perfect session. Now, I like to break this down to 2 different components, which one I call Fluff and one I call Crunch. And if you don't really know what I'm talking about, watch this video up here, and I'll link it probably in the description below, called the Session Checklist, in which I briefly describe what Fluff and Crunch is. Now, basically what Fluff is your story, all that good stuff, that fluffy, sweet stuff that you make up for your players in order to be able to digest. And the second component is Crunch. Now, here's a very quick tip I can teach you guys. Fluff on the fly, crunch on the time. Now, what that means is make your story on the fly and be reactive with your story itself. But when you're getting down to all the noodly crunch mechanics, whatnot, all that stuff that you need in order to fight your players or to have them do certain roles, try to minimize doing that on the fly and try to do it more on your prep time before you even get into the session itself. Step number 2, which links into step number 1, is to do the 80-20 split. Now, what exactly does this mean? So, remember, fluff on the fly, crunch on the time. Do 20% of the work that you need for your session before the session happens, and do the 80% of it during the session. That way, you get the most reactive story ever, you're not railroading your players to go down one specific track, and you don't accidentally kill them simply because you have a nice balance in all of your crunches on that time in order to ensure that it's not too much, potentially, in order to, and also allows your story to be liquid enough for your players to be able to enjoy it. Now let's move on to step number 3. Before we jump into step number 3, I just want to give a huge shout out to the Storyteller of the Week, Whistler. Now, this person has shared a huge and really cool comment, which I'm sharing right here. And you know what? If you want to be the next Storyteller of the Week next week, well, you have to start commenting down below and go on to our Discord called Storyteller's Paradise, which is right here or linked down in the description below. All right, let's get back into it. Step number 3 is simply to figure out what your players like. Now, I know I said the 80-20 rule and whatnot, but if your players are really, really big murder hobos, they just love killing everything, maybe you're gonna have to spend a little more time on that crunch time. Maybe make it a 40-60 split, in which you have a lot of that crunch prepped ahead of time for them to be able to kill, murder, and just destroy all the goblins and get all their treasure. But basically, figure out what your players like in order to give them that perfect balance of fluff and crunch. And there's a couple ways you can do this. One of the ways is to simply test them. So, for instance, if you throw a really RP heavy encounter at them, see how they react. Do you see some of their eyes gloss over? In which, if they do, link up here to the player engagement video that I had made in order to re-intrigue them. But nonetheless, if they are starting to gloss their eyes over on the RP sessions, or once you're doing the combat, you see them sort of just meekly throwing their dice, maybe they want a little more RP, or maybe they want a little bit more combat, or maybe they want a nice, beautiful chocolate and vanilla swirl of both. If that's the case, rebalance your sessions to that, which is exactly why you do the 80-20 rule. That way you can rebalance your entire session to be better equipped for your players. Alright, I'm so glad that you made it to the end of the video, Storyteller. If you really like this, please give a thumbs up down below, as it doesn't hurt you and it really helps me a lot. On top of that, if you really, really like it and you'd like to join our amazing Storyteller community, just subscribe below and hit this bell icon. Well, not that one, the one down below, but hit that as you'll get notified every single time I post a new video just for you. And I'm having a new schedule in which I upload every Saturday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time and at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. So be ready to expect all those videos, plus a table talk on Tuesdays? Yeah, on Tuesdays, something like that. At whatever time, because I don't really know that one yet. But anyways, I hope you really enjoy the content, and in a world without fantasy, sometimes we need a little Dungeons and Dragons.